This is my first ever live stream type of upload for this particular playlist. So, yeah, check out my playlist, Female Nature 101, where I have extensive videos on this particular subject matter. I just didn't want to go through all the editing this time. Just want to get right to it. I've been holding a lot of this stuff in as far as wanting to put it out there in the form of a video, but just wanted to go quick with a live stream on this. And this is what technically my first ever live stream talking about female nature 101 in specific. So yeah, here we are. She dislikes or she hates men that cry. So, not to go in with my opinion on it too much. Yeah, not to go too much in on it with my own opinion. Just going off a few examples. Well, there's obviously, y'all heard the stories. There'll be a lot of guys or a lot of gals out there that be like, a certain guy be a certain way when it comes to a certain situation. Then he starts to cry. She out of there, you know, because to her, like to see a man cry, that means he's weak. So, there's that. So, that's one example. Trying to think of some other examples. Well, because they figure men shouldn't show any emotion. But it's funny when guys say, "Well, I don't need to show emotion. I'm gonna use my logic." Well, that makes her cry. Funny how that works, right? Then they be like, "Well, you act like you don't care." Well, and last time I tried to care, you didn't want me to cry. And yeah, I ain't gonna lie, like in personal experiences, I've been around gals that would be like, they don't like guys that cry. They would even be like telling dudes like, yo, don't cry. Don't cry in front of me like that. And so yeah, on it popping, Brown Do Life, just trying to get it in, keep these algorithms jumping. You know how I go. Yeah, man. It just takes so much time to edit videos, and I'm more of an audio channel than a video channel, hence the name Rayology XM. Yeah, that's the audio side, but I still put out a few videos here and there. But yeah, this is definitely for the Female Nature 101 playlist, my first ever style live stream. But yeah, what else can I think of? Just, it's funny because I say this, fellas, nothing wrong with crying, just cry around a real woman, not a typical female, because a typical female, she ain't gonna care about your feelings like that. Now, you don't always shed your tears for everybody either, but you got to keep her when you can cry in that woman's arms. You know what I'm saying? Because she knows you really coming down because you don't show your emotions that much. You have a lot you deal with in this world, and there's a lot going on that a lot of people don't understand about you, and they not even there to support you on. Men got to work for everything that they have in this world, unless you're crippled or got injured or something. But they feel that since you're a man, you can do it. To me, that just sounds almost God level, if you ask me, but that's for another conversation, right? So if a man is seen as a certain way, you treat him as a certain way. But see, the funny thing is, like, hashtag God cries too, but no one wants to talk about that, right? Yeah, bro, do life they asking men to be robots. But then that's the thing, like, what will robots do? They will turn on society, just as men will do if men are taught to be robots. It's funny how that all kind of goes. So it's good that a man does have emotions, just knowing that he has to share his emotions with the right people. No different than he just needs to know who to be nice to. Don't be nice to everybody that's not being nice to you. Don't wear your heart on your sleeve to everybody that ain't willing to put on that shirt, you know? So that's all you just kind of know. You just kind of discern. That's all it is. You don't generalize anybody, but like they used to tell me back in my days of going to church, you got to be discerning things spiritually. You got to be very discerning. And so that's that when it comes to when she doesn't like men that cry. This is important because this is part of intimacy, fellas. I'm trying to tell y'all something. You want to have some of the best, wonderful moments in the bedroom. I tell you this, You got to get with someone that does not mind you crying. What does the old song say? I cry, you cry, we cry together. Okay? So if she don't want to see you cry, that's one aspect of female nature, you know. That's one you stay away from. Someone that, and here's the other aspect, because this is another way of men crying. Men don't always cry with tears. Men cry when sharing all of their fears. That's how they cry. Not necessarily cry with tears, but they cry also. I call it a soft cry or a dry cry. You guys help me out with that if y'all like those terminologies. Soft cry or dry cry, if you will. Probably not the soft cry, but the dry cry for sure, because you're crying without tears, right? But that dry cry, if you will, or maybe soft cry, if you like that terminology, that's you sharing with the particular feminine gender all of your fears, all of your vulnerabilities, being vulnerable. That's another way a man can dry cry, sharing his vulnerability, especially if he shares that with the world. And he might get around a gal that might somewhat feel turned off by that. Okay, female nature 101. That's not a real woman. A real woman don't mind a man being vulnerable. As a matter of fact, she wants him to be vulnerable. Now, you also have to where you have some typical females that don't mind a man being vulnerable, so she can try to use that against him and hurt him. But once again, that's not being a real woman. A real woman wouldn't do that, because she realized a lot of guys out here, especially now, they being toxic. These guys ain't trying to be vulnerable. Hey, a lot of these toxic guys one time were vulnerable and they got hurt. And guess what they decided to do? Switch. Just saying. But that's what it is. A lot of these guys became toxic around gals that didn't want to see them cry. So they were like, okay, I guess I shouldn't cry. And don't be surprised if I don't cry if you start crying. So there's that. But there ain't really too many examples I could give for this particular one, because it's pretty self-explanatory based on the title alone. Based on the title of this video alone, she hates it to see men cry. She don't want to see a man cry. To her, that's a turn off, because he's showing emotion because she doesn't have any more emotions. There's that too, right? He been trying to get her to open up to him, and it took him opening up to see that she never would. That part. And so she, you know, that's what I'm saying, fellas. Before you want to lay up with a chick, see where her heart's at. See if she even has a heart. See if she even has a heart. You know, you can find out even if she's trying to give you a hard time instead of a hard on. You can find out there too if she has a heart or not. Some gals will still give you a hard on and still give you a hard time. Got to watch out for that too. So there's a little bit of gray area in there that I just mentioned. But nevertheless, she don't like to see you cry. She don't like to see you in your feelings. You know what I mean? She telling you to get out of your feelings. She just wants you to have her feel good. And she wants you to feel good. But she don't want you in your feelings. She don't want you to cry. I'm like, don't get mad if he stops talking to you. Oh, he's now cheating? Because he found someone else he could what? Talk to? No, he's not talking to them. He's talking with them. He's talking because he's finally able to cry. He has some things to let out. Yeah, it's cool on one hand, a man, he's around other guys. He can kind of, talk in ways he can't talk around women. But hey, if you're heterosexual, you want to be like that with a real woman. You know what I mean? Not a typical female, and especially not with another guy. You know, that only goes so far with the bros. You don't want it to turn into bromance. I'm just speaking from a heterosexual standpoint. No pun intended with those of the rainbow community. You know, uh, so there's that. But yeah, I won't keep this video too long. Just wanted to really talk on that example of just to summarize for those catching this a little late while I'm live, but on the replay, just kind of run it back to y'all as far as the different examples of why she hates to see men cry. Well, for her, it's a turnoff to see a man crying and into his emotions. Yeah, to see him cry and into his emotions, to her, if she lacks emotions, she see that as him being soft. And who knows? Maybe he could be. He doesn't have that much experience with women, but can you really blame him? Maybe he hasn't been around enough men, you know? So, and I'm not pointing fingers because, like I said, I'm not here to shame guys. I'm trying to be there to help guys. There's so many guys out here in these spaces, uh, in these different spherical spaces, and I'm gonna just, I'm gonna keep it 100. A lot of the manosphere content, yes, a lot of the manosphere content is shaming men nowadays, you know. Oh, because he didn't be around enough men. Okay, he didn't be around enough men. That could have been anybody. You know what I mean? So what do you do? Okay, tell him don't cry around that particular gal. She is soulless. Okay, that helps him out a great deal. Instead of just telling him he shouldn't cry. Don't say that. Guy's really going through stuff, and you're not a psychologist. Okay. uh, and even if he was, and even if you were, he didn't appoint you to be one. Okay. So, but so yeah, she sees it as a turn off to see men cry because she likes emotion and she might think he's soft, but he can get some help with that if he gets around the right guys. You know what I'm saying? Uh, she also does it. She hates to see men cry because of the way a man dry cries. Cry without tears, meaning that he makes himself vulnerable, expressing himself. He wanted her to reciprocate. Just this idea of talking to the feminine gender about reciprocating is another form of what I call a dry cry because he's letting out who he is and he's pouring himself out into her. He wants that to be returned, a certain energy about that, that energy, right? So there's that, like in, but you have a lot of the feminine gender that don't want to talk about vulnerability and they don't want a man to cry, because they don't have that emotion to cry. And, you know, for some, it's because they haven't been through that much pain, some of the lesser feminine, but some of them have been through so much pain, they no longer can cry. But why take that out on the man that is trying to love you through the pain, you know? But see, there's a lot of lies in that. And so, merely he's just exposing her evil ways without him even realizing it until down the road. So there's that too. Uh, so there's so much to touch upon this topic of just a lot of the feminine out here that show their female nature. Uh, like I said, only the typical females do this, not the real women do this. But the typical females really don't want to see a man cry. They don't want to see a man, make himself vulnerable and, just open up to her. You might have some gals say they want a man to open up to them, but not in the standpoint of where he truly is more emotional. Like she just wants to know more about him to use against him. If there's things he do tell her about himself, get into a heated argument, watch her say some of the worst things that she can ever say about the things that you told her about yourself that was very sensitive. And then don't cry about it because she's going to say something about that too. Thanks a million.